Today I'm going to show you 5 different ways I'm going to preserve peaches. I just picked out about 40 pounds of peaches from the farmer's market. I will be planting peaches here eventually, but we don't have our orchard set up yet, although I do have some fruit trees around the property, such as apples and pears. Peaches are a little harder to grow here, but peaches are my favorite, so I'm definitely gonna try. But we have orchards nearby, so I picked up a couple cases of them, and I'm going to show you 5 ways that I preserve peaches. We're going to first start with a water bath canning poached peach. Then we're going to go ahead and do some peach jam, and we'll be dehydrating some peaches and freezing some peaches, and then lastly I'll be kind of using a lot of the scraps and the leftover peaches to make a shrub, which is like a fermented vinegar, sugar type of drink that you can use to mix into some cocktails or just make as a kind of fruit-based kind of soda with a little bit of fermentation. So we'll get started with that. And first I'll show you kind of some of the equipment you will need. And there will be, I do have a dehydrator that I'll be using to dehydrate the peaches, but you can also try in the oven as well. So let's get started. For ingredients, you will need peaches, black tea, sugar, honey, and some lemon juice. So for the first recipe, I'll be using the sweet tea poached peaches water bath canning. It's from the new Ball book of canning and preserving. So you can find the recipe in there. I'll be doing 2 batches so I can get a more, it makes about 5, the recipe itself makes about 5 pints. So I'm gonna want more, so I'll probably be making 2 batches of the recipe. But I'll go ahead and show you how to do it. First we'll be going to de-skin the peaches, and we'll be working in batches to get those ready. For equipment, you can usually get a package that has all of this stuff in it that can help you with canning. So there's like a lid lifter with a magnet on it. There's something that measures headspace, and this is a jar lifter. You'll also need a water bath canner, which is like a big pot with a basket, and that will help you, makes it a lot easier. And you'll want to make sure that all your equipment is disinfected and ready to go. So I'm using pint jars, I think that they're Ball pint jars and lids, and you'll want to boil them in hot water for about 10 minutes to disinfect them. Some people also use their dishwasher on sanitized mode if you want to do that. So I've got the jars all ready. They're sitting in the hot water right now and have been disinfected. And then we will pull those out when they're ready. So I'll show you the first step, which is preparing your peaches. You'll first want to start by bringing a large pot of water to a boil. You're gonna then fill either a large bowl, or I like to use my sink, about 2/3 full of ice water, and then cut a lemon in half and squeeze lemon juice into the ice water. Alright, so once you have your water boiling, you're gonna go ahead and put an X in your peaches opposite the stem side. So just like this, just cut a little X in the bottom of all the peaches. And then you will place them, I'm using a little wire basket, so I'll put about 4 peaches in here, I think will fit. And then they'll be put into the boiling water, and you want to boil for about 60 seconds, and then go ahead and pull them out, and then they're going to go into your ice bath with the lemon juice, and you'll just keep on doing that until all of your peaches are ready. I'm using about 6 pounds. Right, once your peaches are peeled, and then you're gonna slice them in half and pit them and everything and get them ready and have them staying in the cold lemon juice water. You are going to go ahead and bring some water to a boil, depending on how much you're using. I have about 7 cups of water that I'm bringing to a boil because I'm making 2 different things, different batches. And then I'm going to place tea bags. Once it's boiling, I'm going to place tea bags and cover it and let it steep for about 15 minutes. I have about 8 tea bags that are going in 7 cups of water. First, I'll be using some white sugar to add to my tea mixture. I will be using about 2 cups of sugar for about 7 pounds of peaches. And then I'll be using about 2 cups of raw honey. And finally, after the honey, I will be adding 6 tablespoons of lemon juice. And that will make a heavy syrup to can the peaches in. Starting with a sanitized jar, I'm using pint jars. You will go ahead and pack peach halves or quarters tightly into a hot jar. You'll be wanting to do it the cavity side down, and then you're going to want to leave about 1/2 inch of headspace, and then you'll be ladling the hot tea mixture over the peaches, leaving about 1/2 inch of headspace. And then you're going to want to remove any air bubbles, wipe the jar rim, center lids on jar, and apply band, and adjust to about finger tight. Then you'll place the jars in the boiling water canner and repeat until the jars are all filled. All right, after they process for about 25 minutes, you can turn off the heat and go ahead and pull your cans out. You'll want to let them sit for about 24 hours, and then you'll want to make sure that the lid's sealed. All right, now my canned peaches are just cooling. They will sit for about, I'll usually check them after, like in the morning, to make sure that they sealed. Now I'm gonna go ahead and make some peach jam, and I'll show you how. I'm using about, I think 6 pounds. I'm gonna make 2 batches. The recipe I'm using is from the Blue Ball Book Guide to Preserving, and it's the peach jam recipe. It calls for about 3 pounds. I'm going to make 2 batches, so I'm going to do 6 pounds, and then you'll need some sugar, lemon juice, and some fruit pectin. So I'm using Ball's like real fruit pectin. It seems like I'm like advertising for a Ball canning, but they just have the most stuff available, so that's the thing. So right now I'm getting the jars ready. They're boiling for about 10 minutes. I'm getting the lids all ready, and then I'll show you how to make some peach jam. I'm gonna go ahead and blanch the peaches to get the skin off, and then I'll be cutting them up, and we'll mix them up and then heat the jam on the stove top. So it's gonna be very similar to how I did the peaches in the beginning of the poached peach canning. So let's go ahead and get started. You're gonna have 1 quart of finely chopped peaches, peeled, pitted, so about 3 pounds. And for that, you'll add about 7.5 cups of sugar and about 1/3 cup of lemon juice. Once you have your peaches, your sugar, and your lemon juice all mixed together, you're gonna go ahead and bring it to a boil over medium-high heat. And you're gonna boil that, stirring until it is pretty hot. Then you're gonna go ahead and you'll add your real fruit pectin. I'm adding 3 packets of these, and you're gonna go ahead and bring that back into a boil, and you're gonna boil it for about a minute, and then you can take the foam off the top if needed. So
next, you'll ladle your hot jam into some clean, disinfected hot jars. I'm using 1/2 pint jars. You'll be leaving about a 1/4 inch of headspace, and then you can go ahead and remove any air bubbles you see. You're going to want to clean the jar rims after you fill them. Center the lid on the jar and adjust the band to fingertip tight. Place jar on a rack elevated over a simmering pot of water, and then you're going to want to go ahead and lower the jars in. The jars will need to be covered by about 1 inch of water at least, and you're going to process 1/2 pint jars for about 10 minutes, and then you'll turn the heat off, remove the cover, and let jars cool for about 5 minutes. You'll then want to go ahead and check about 12 hours or so. I usually just check in the morning, but you'll want to make sure that the lids did seal.
All right, the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and get some peaches ready for dehydrating. We'll be using a dehydrator, but you can also use your oven. You'll just wanna keep a closer eye on it. It should cook at 135 degrees. I'm going to use these mesh things to lay it out on. You'll wanna cut the peach for about, if you desire to peel the peach, you can. If not, that's okay. I probably will peel my peaches, so you can blanch them and peel them just like was shown before, and then you can let them sit in cold water with about 1/2 cup of lemon juice to about 4 cups of cold water. And that just keeps them from browning. But you'll go ahead and slice up your peaches. You'll do about 1/2 to 1/4 inch thick. So you want them to at least be that thick, or they will be too hard and stick. So I'm using these mesh things. They'll be at 135 degrees. It's about 10 to 12 hours. You'll want to check them after about 6 hours to see how they're doing, and you'll want to possibly rotate the trays as well, depending on how many you're doing. So I'll go ahead and show you that. All right, so I went ahead and sliced up my peaches. I have some that have no, that I peeled the skin of. I have some with skin, so we'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna set this to 135, and it will cook for about 10 to 12 hours, and you'll wanna check it around 6 hours just to see how it goes. You can also try it in the oven, but you'll have to keep more of an eye on it in the oven. Just pulled my dehydrated peaches out. I did it at 140 for about 11 to 12 hours. So you could do like, my dehydrator would only do like 131 or 140, so I did 140. But it's about 135 to 140 depending on your dehydrator. Or you can try, if your oven goes that low, you can also try it in the oven. So to tell that they are all dry, you can go ahead and you'll take a peach, and it should be kind of pliable. And then if you rip it open, you should see that there's no moisture coming out of it. If it still has moisture, you want to put it in for longer. So that's kind of how you tell if they're dry. I am storing them just in these pint jars. If you're looking for a longer storage, because they can store for up to a year, you'll want to make sure there's no moisture. So you'll want to kind of check on them and for like a week or so to make sure, like keep them somewhere where you can view them, make sure no moisture is like seeping out or anything. And then you can vacuum seal them and add a like moisture absorber packet to the thing, and they can store as long as properly dried for about a year. So that is that with the dehydrated peaches. All right, now I'm gonna show you how to freeze peaches, which is actually pretty easy. You're gonna go ahead and blanch them like we did for the poached peaches as well as the jam. And then you're just gonna go ahead and slice them up. You'll have them soak in some lemon juice just to keep the color. And then you're gonna go ahead and just lay them on a parchment, like a baking sheet with parchment paper on it. And then you'll go stick it in the freezer and let it freeze. And then you'll kind of package it up. So I'll show you the process of that. It's pretty easy and simple.
So freezing peaches is pretty simple. You can go ahead and you'll want to remove the skin and the pit, and then you can just slice them all up. Just make sure everything you're using is clean. I am using some parchment paper as well as a baking sheet, and I'll just be going ahead and lying this in my freezer and letting it freeze. I usually just let it go ahead and freeze overnight.
So I have my frozen peaches that I sliced up and put in the freezer. I am just going to pull these off of here and I'll store them and mark them into Ziploc bags. You can also, I just have these freezer bags that I'll store them in because we'll probably go through it pretty quickly. You can also vacuum seal if you have like a good amount and want to keep longer. But anything frozen can usually store for at least 6 months, usually in the freezer, if not longer. But 6 months is usually a safe bet. So I'm just gonna use these Ziploc bags and go ahead and mark it, just in case it's stored in here. You can mark it with a little Sharpie, just the date, and I mean, you'll be able to tell they're peaches. So, and then I just like to use the Ziploc bags because we make a lot of smoothies and stuff, so it's easy just to get what you need out of there, like if you only need a cup or half a cup or so. So I'll be storing those in there, and that is the frozen peaches. Freezing and dehydrating is pretty easy, and it's a great way to preserve stuff quick and easy. The canning is takes a lot of time. It will take up your whole day sometimes. So this is definitely probably some of the easiest ways to preserve is going to be freezing or dehydrating food. So that's that, and that is all I have for this week. So I will. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna make is a fruit scrub. So I've saved all the scraps that were decent. So I didn't save anything that was like moldy or had turned bad, but anything that was decent of the peels and some extras. I'm gonna use this to make a scrub. We'll be using vinegar as well as sugar, and I'll show you how to do that.
In order to make the fruit shrub syrup, I went ahead and alternated equal amounts of fruit, sugar, and apple cider vinegar, and went ahead and shaked it and mixed it all up, and just worked in little batches. Make sure everything you're using has been disinfected and is clean. You'll want to go ahead and use a fermenting lid to let it sit. I let my shrub sit about 3 to 5 days, at which time I will filter the fruit out and keep the syrup. The syrup can be stored in the refrigerator, and you'll want to make sure to keep an eye out for any mold or any signs that the shrub has gone bad.
So that's all I have for this week. That's how I preserve, the 5 ways that I preserve my peaches, and I will see you next week. Bye.